What's up, guys? Matt Parrino here from NRG Stadium in Houston, Texas. The Buffalo Bills were defeated today by the Houston Texans, 20-13, in pretty dramatic fashion. Josh Allen injured in this one, left the game with an elbow injury. Nathan Peterman came in. Interesting, the Bills signed Derek Anderson this week to be the backup. To be the perceived backup for Josh Allen, but probably not ready yet. So Nathan Peterman is active today. It was kind of newsworthy that Nathan Peterman was staying on the roster when Anderson was brought in, but he's been out of football since January, so it's going to take him a little time to get reacquainted and up to speed on what the Bills are doing. Josh Allen left the game. Peterman struggled. He came in first, and it looked like a redemption story. I just put a story up at NewYorkUpstate.com about Nathan Peterman's day, and it looked like it might be a redemption story for Nathan Peterman. I talked about it earlier in this season. You know, you kind of almost hope for it for this kid because he's gone through such a hardship with the struggles and the interceptions that he's thrown. 5 in a game against the Chargers last year. And then after being named the starter this season against the Baltimore Ravens, threw 2 interceptions before he was benched. Threw 2 more today. He threw a touchdown to Zay Jones when he entered the game, his second drive. Really nice ball in the back of the end zone, and it looked like things were going well. 13-13 the game was late in the fourth quarter. Bills had the ball with less than 2 minutes to go, and a potential game-winning drive was there, and get rid of Peterman. Tyrese is saying, and you know, I do agree. I think it might be time to get rid of Nathan Peterman. He throws a pick 6 interception with the game tied 13-13. Jonathan Joseph runs it back to the house for 6 points, and you know, the Bills waste what was a superb effort by this defensive unit. I think that, you know, a lot's been made in recent weeks about the process, right? Is the process working? Because at times this season it's looked really bad out there for the Bills. I mean, you rewind the clock a little bit to week 4 or 5 there, I think 4, against the Green Bay Packers, and a 22-0 shutout, and you wonder, is everything working? I mean, it's a rebuild, obviously, but to see so little progress, so little development on the offensive side of the football, and you really wonder if this whole process idea with Sean McDermott and Brandon Beane is working. But then you look at what this defense is doing, you know, week to week, and it's a shame that this offense is wasting the effort. Today held the Houston Texans to 220 total yards of offense. This team is putting up the 4th most passing yards in the league at 307 per game. And Deshaun Watson was, you know, not even a factor today. Threw a touchdown pass in the first quarter on a nice ball to DeAndre Hopkins, but for the most part was shut down. The Bills defense forced 3 turnovers. They two interceptions, 1 fumble. They caused 3 fumbles, only recovered 1 of them. I mean, this, talk about a defensive unit that's one of the best in the league at forcing fumbles, and this is that unit. This defensive line was on fire today. 7 sacks of Watson, 30 for 35 yards, and you know, he was uncomfortable all day, and we talked about it all week long going into this one in the locker room with these defensive players. What do you have to do to be successful against Houston Texans? Is make Deshaun Watson uncomfortable, and they did that today. But on the offensive side of the football, they just couldn't make enough plays. You look at Josh Allen when he was in the game. Made a couple plays, made a couple nice throws, but again, you know, it's inconsistencies, the accuracy issues, wide receivers getting open or lack thereof, and you know, this offense is just not flowing properly. LaShawn McCoy actually did get going again today. He had 75 yards rushing and a nice play. A couple nice big runs and a couple receptions in the passing game. Let me just check the stats here. 3 catches for 21 yards. So he almost at 100 yards of total offense once again this week. So that's a good sign for the Bills. And it was reported by Ian Rappaport before the game that the Bills are not going to trade LaShawn McCoy. They want to keep him around, and I think that's pretty smart considering the fact that you do have a very inexperienced, talent depleted offense, and you know, you don't want to get rid of your playmakers And who knows what the market is even right now for a 30-year-old running back. But back on this game, it's, it is a build, right? Sean McDermott talks about this over and over and over again, week after week. These are a lot of young players that are developing. You got to give them time, but it seems like this defense is way ahead of schedule, and they're ready to compete right now. I thought in game, I thought DeAndre Hopkins got off to the fast start, but if you look at the entire game for Tre'Davious White, he really showed up, played really well today. Shut down Hopkins to the point where Watson wasn't even really looking for him. Now, I think that the pass rush for the Bills and the way they made Watson uncomfortable helped in coverage, because they were getting to Watson, forcing him to be uncomfortable. And I thought it was one of the most important aspects to the pass rush was a lot of teams flush Deshaun Watson out of the pocket. But the problem is, once you start to flush him and he starts to make his move, teams aren't able to kind of bring him down. And Jerry Hughes talked about that this week. When you get to him, you have to bring him down. And I thought that they did a great job of, when they got to Deshaun Watson today, they made an impact at the ball, whether they stripped it from him, whether they tackled him, whether they forced him into a kind of erratic pass. His passer rating was low today. And to come into Houston and get the job done from that perspective, I think it's important. Another area, besides the Zay Jones touchdown, which kudos to him, that was a great play. Peterman found him in the back of the end zone. It's a good sign for this wide receiver group, and Zay Jones in particular, a guy that struggled, but not a lot of catches. And you wonder about the play calling at times. Charles Clay on a screen pass, when you have Shady McCoy and even Chris Ivory, who's done some things in the screen game. It's just it's a disappointing outing for a Bills team that comes on the road, could have got to 500 with a win here, going up against an Indianapolis team that looked very beatable today against the Jets. So it's back to the drawing board. After the game, Sean McDermott said that he wants to look at the tape. He wants to kind of evaluate what happened from an offensive perspective, but your defense plays the way that it did, held this potent Houston Texans offense to just 13 points. That last touchdown, obviously the defensive touchdown with the Texans, and you got to think that your offense can do enough to win the game. And even as much as McCoy was leaned on today, 16 carries, like I said, I almost would like to see him even more involved in the game when you're struggling to get the ball to the receivers. Put the ball in your playmakers' hands. There was a few series where on first and second down, Chris Ivory was out there, which he's had some success this season, but he's not LaShawn McCoy, and you definitely want to get him out there. But the Bills, fall to 2-4 now. Looking ahead, the Indianapolis Colts are next week before coming back to Buffalo for a huge showdown with the New England Patriots on Monday night. You have to wonder where the team, the Bills, are going to be at that point of the season. But yeah, it's a debilitating loss. I think you probably move on from Nathan Peterman at this point with Derek Anderson in the fold, elevate him to backup quarterback, or if Josh Allen isn't ready to play next week. Sean McDermott had no update on Josh Allen today. Suffered an elbow injury, was wrapped down in the tunnel. We'll find out more about that as the week progresses here. But yeah, it's a hard one to take because of how well the Bills defense played. Guys, for all your coverage, we got a few stories up on NewYorkUpstate.com right now. We'll have one more tonight, and then we'll be a One Bills Drive tomorrow for Sean McDermott and the coordinator's availability. And for all your content, as always, guys, keep it locked on NYUp.com. Thanks for watching.